Hey guys, welcome to my channel MissRecap. This cute dog always had everything he wished for, but after an unfortunate incident, he needed to make a difficult choice. Whether he wanted luxuries or true love. Trouble is the luckiest dog on the planet who lives in a huge mansion and enjoys the life of a king. After a relaxing sleep on his luxurious bed, Trouble is woken up by his personal butler, James. He also has several maids who look after his comfort and grooming. Every day, after his extra-long self-care routine, Trouble plays with his owner, Sarah. She's an old but super rich woman who has no family members, so all of her love is showered on Trouble. From eating lunch to getting spa treatments, Trouble joins Sarah on every point of her life. They drive away each other's loneliness and enjoy luxurious vacations together. Everything seemed perfect, but all of a sudden, it's shattered into pieces. Poor Sarah dies of old age while Trouble is left alone in the huge mansion. He has no idea what happened and keeps wondering why no one is paying attention to him. The news of Sarah's death reaches her distant niece and nephew, Claire and Norbert. They never had any affection for the old lady, and always kept an eye on her wealth. After Sarah's death, it's a golden opportunity for Claire and Norbert to take over the assets. They immediately rush to the mansion and pretend to be sad over their aunt's death. When the servant goes to make coffee for them, Norbert pulls out his phone to click pictures of all the valuable items in the mansion. After checking the prices online, their mouths start to water. Claire and Norbert are really greedy, and they want to get all the property as soon as possible. On seeing them, Trouble rushes to say hello, because he thinks Sarah's relatives are as kind as her. However, Claire hates dogs, and asks Norbert to throw away Trouble with all the other useless items in the mansion. They don't want to spend their money on the dog anyway. To lure Trouble, Norbert throws his favorite toy in the load truck. As soon as the innocent dog sees his toy, he immediately jumps in the truck. He gets busy playing with it, and doesn't notice the door closing behind him. After sending away the poor dog, Claire and Norbert go to meet the lawyer so they can inherit all the property. Little does they know, Sarah had recorded her will in the form of a video message. She allowed her only relatives Claire and Norbert to take the assets on one condition. They have to look after Sarah's loyal companion, Trouble, just like she did. Hearing this, Claire starts lying that she loves dogs and will take good care of Trouble, but the lawyer doesn't get convinced. Sarah asked him to give at least a week to Trouble. If the dog accepts Claire and Norbert as his new owners, only then the property will be transferred to them. Hiding the fact that she threw away Trouble, Claire asks the lawyer to visit them again next week. Meanwhile, poor Trouble is locked in the truck and doesn't know where he's going. For the first time in his life, he is getting dirty, and Trouble can't bear it. While trying to get rid of the dust, he explores the objects thrown away by the new owners. They are mostly Sarah's favorite items she loved carrying around. Her makeup kits, her leather bag, her beautiful hat, and her beloved dog. Claire and Norbert threw away everything Sarah loved. Trouble gets really depressed and starts missing Sarah. He finds one of her pictures and cuddles around it to sleep. While he's suffering, Claire has already started enjoying the new luxurious life. Norbert reminds her about the missing dog, but Claire prefers completing her body massage instead of looking for the dog. Later that night, the truck runs over a bumpy road and poor Trouble falls out. He rolls down to the forest and gets stuck inside a tree. However, he doesn't wake up until the next morning. As soon as Trouble opens his eyes, he finds a group of angry red squirrels. They were collecting nuts in the tree Trouble fell into. Now all of their stored food is gone. It will take several months to gather it again, but the squirrels don't have that much time before the winter. Trouble tries to apologize, but the squirrels attack him from all sides. He runs to the city to save himself, but his collar gets taken away by the squirrels. Trouble looks for a place to hide, but he suddenly finds some delicious sausages. However, the food belongs to a female stray dog named Rousey. Unlike Trouble, Rousey looks really tough and experienced in surviving alone. Trouble tries to get friendly with her, but she keeps ignoring him. Suddenly, a worker from a nearby restaurant notices the dogs and kicks them away. While running, Trouble accidentally hits the scooter of a young girl named Zoe Bell. She works at a restaurant, but the pizza she needed to deliver falls on the ground. Rousey notices the pizza and takes it away. As she starts eating, Trouble reaches there and requests for a slice because he hasn't eaten anything since last night. Rousey refuses to share and continues eating by herself. Suddenly, the red squirrels arrive again and start threatening Trouble. He asks Rousey for help, but she walks away, leaving behind the pizza. Trouble tries to keep the pizza for himself, but the squirrels start hitting him with nuts and wins. Meanwhile, Claire and Norbert go to an expert who can help them in finding Trouble. He's a weird guy named Thurman Sanchez who claims to hunt the wildest animals in the world. By promising a huge amount of money, Norbert convinces Thurman to look for the dog. Thurman starts touching and smelling the tracks and predicts where Trouble has gone. Miraculously, he even locates the place where Trouble spent the night and fought with the squirrels. Claire gets impressed by his skills and asks him to find the dog before the next visit of the lawyer. Back in the city, Zoe talks to her and tries explaining how she was robbed by the dogs. The boss refuses to believe her awkward story and blames her for ruining the pizza business. Zoe gets angry and says that she doesn't want to sell pizza anyway because she's going to be a great singer. The boss mocks her stupid dreams and threatens to deduct her salary for losing the pizza. Zoe sadly returns home and calls the manager of the upcoming singing auditions. After registering herself, she starts preparing her song because this is the golden chance she may never get again. As the night sets in, Trouble wanders in the forest to find Rousey. She arrives after a while and asks Trouble to stop calling her name. Instead of looking for her, he should try going back home. Trouble is also missing home, but he doesn't know how to get there. He always traveled in luxurious cars and never walked on roads like this. He begs Rousey to let him stay beside her for tonight, and tomorrow he will try going back home. Rousey doesn't say anything, so Trouble leans on her to sleep. Rousey kicks him away but also feels sorry at his merciful condition. The next morning, Trouble forgets about returning home and asks Rousey what they are going to do today. Rousey asks him to stop following her because she has lots of things to do. To survive by herself, she needs to find food and shelter. Unlike Trouble, Rousey doesn't have time for self-care or playing games. Trouble still doesn't leave Rousey's side and begs her to stay beside him until he finds his home. Suddenly, they spot a dog park, where several pet owners bring their dogs to interact with each other. To get rid of Trouble, Rousey lies that the pet dogs will help him return home. Trouble falls for the lie and rushes to the dog park. The pet dogs invite him as a rookie and start smelling his butt to recognize his family history. They get really shocked at Trouble's hygiene and ask where he wipes his back. Trouble gets confused and says that he never wiped himself because he lives in a mansion with several maids to take care of him. The dogs get shocked, but they still advise Trouble to try wiping himself as it's more satisfying than he thinks. Trouble does as said, and feels really comfortable wiping himself on the ground. Suddenly the pet dogs notice the empty neck and ask Trouble about his collar. He must have a collar. Otherwise he will be considered a stray dog and sent to the dog shelter. It's the worst place a dog can go. Trouble gets scared and asks the dogs to help him avoid the shelter. They suggest that Trouble should try finding a new owner by using his cute face. Trouble decides to give it a chance and runs towards the street. Coincidentally, he encounters Zoe and she still remembers what he did. Trouble uses his cute puppy eyes to earn sympathy, and Zoe falls for it. She agrees to take him home until he finds a new owner. Zoe lives in an old building where she hasn't paid rent for months. The landlord scolds her every day and threatens to kick her out. He also doesn't allow pets, so Zoe secretly throws Trouble inside her house. He looks around to find food and realizes that he is adopted by a poor person. Trouble still tries to be grateful as living here is better than sleeping on the streets. After a while, Zoe arrives and starts looking for leftovers to feed Trouble. She gives him a bowl of instant noodles and goes to work on her song lyrics. Trouble expected something luxurious like a steak or pasta, so he refuses to eat. He starts wiping himself on the floor, which makes Zoe angry. She regrets bringing a dog home while she can't even pay rent. Instead of writing songs, she should be doing extra work shifts. Zoe sends Trouble outside through the exit door and she goes to deliver more pizzas. Trouble gets heartbroken and also feels scared of the darkness. Suddenly he hears some noise and freezes to his place. Rousey steps out of the shadow and explains that she is here to find some food in the trash. Trouble mentions Zoe, but Rousey suggests that he should not get too attached to humans. They can kick you out whenever they like. Trouble should learn how to survive as a stray dog. Rousey agrees to teach him everything if Trouble helps her steal a pizza from Zoe. Trouble immediately refuses and calls Zoe a good human. She saved him from getting crushed by the cars and also invited him inside the house. Zoe must have reasons to leave Trouble in this trashy place. Hearing this, Rousey walks away saying that humans are not trustworthy. Luckily, Trouble was right. Zoe left him here so she doesn't get caught by the landlord. After a while, she lets him inside and apologizes for being rude. Zoe is going through a hard time herself. Since she decided to be a singer, things are getting more difficult. She has to work on multiple jobs to support herself and write new songs every day, so one of them can bring her success. Zoe's parents also don't support her, because they wanted her to be a doctor. Now she's left alone, just like Trouble. Zoe starts creating lyrics out of her situation and sings them loudly while playing guitar. Suddenly, she remembers about the pizza she brought for Trouble. After feeding him, Zoe clicks his pictures and uploads them on her profile. Finally, she has a friend who is willing to stay beside her. Zoe also gives him a handmade collar so everyone can know that Trouble is not a stray dog anymore. Later that night, a storm hits the city, and Trouble gets scared of the thunder. But luckily, Zoe is there to hug him. The next morning, Trouble visits the dog park again, along with Zoe. The pet dogs get really happy to see the collar around Trouble's neck, but they are worried about Zoe's poverty. However, Trouble likes being with her as she takes good care of him. Suddenly, the red squirrels arrive there again and start threatening poor Trouble. The pet dogs jump forward to help him, and a war starts among the squirrels and dogs. The animal tracker, Thurman, is watching everything from afar. As soon as he gets a chance, Thurman secretly kidnaps Trouble and goes back to his car. Only after opening the bag, he realizes his mistake of kidnapping the squirrel instead of the dog. Thurman still believes it's a good catch because the squirrel can help him get to Trouble. Thurman immediately calls Claire and informs about his progress. He goes to Zoe's house along with the squirrels and waits for the right moment. Zoe goes out to buy some pizza while Trouble calmly lies down to rest. Suddenly the squirrels break in and start messing up the whole house. Trouble tries to stop them, but it's all in vain. The squirrels even destroy Zoe's expensive guitar. After completing their mission, the squirrels leave the house while Trouble gets stuck in the folding bed. When Zoe returns, she freezes in shock by seeing the condition of her house. She assumes that Trouble did everything and calls him a bad dog. Suddenly the landlord arrives and asks about the dog. Zoe refuses to own him, so the landlord calls the dog shelter. There he finds Rousey and apologizes for not believing her. Humans are definitely not trustworthy. Trouble still can't accept how Zoe abandoned him after giving him so much love. He asks Rousey about her story, and she recalls the incident in which she didn't notice the dog catcher while looking for food. Hearing this, Trouble says that it's better to be in the shelter than the roads. Maybe they will get adopted again. Rousey gets angry and reminds Trouble that all humans are the same. She was also a pet dog like him and had a loving family. Once she saved the kid from a speeding car, but the parents assumed that Rousey was hurting the kid. They kicked her out. Since then, she stopped trusting humans and decided to become a stray dog. She learned how to mess with cats, find food and bite humans if they approach her. Because once you become a stray dog, everyone gets disgusted by you and never wishes to adopt you. Trouble doesn't agree and says that there are still some good humans out there. They love playing with the dogs, feeding them, throwing balls at them, giving them stupid names and scratching their bellies. Rousey has become so insensitive because she never took the risk to love another human. Rousey doesn't say anything in return, so Trouble gets quite too. Suddenly Thurman arrives there and takes away Trouble. The other dogs in the shelter recognize Thurman and call him an animal hunter. Hearing this, Rousey gets worried, but she can't do anything right now. After a while, Zoe arrives there to get back Trouble, but it's too late. The other dogs feel sad for her, and also for Trouble because he lost a loving owner. Rousey also realizes that Trouble was right. There are still some good humans out there, and Zoe is one of them. Rousey asks the other dogs to follow his instructions if they want to help Trouble. As soon as an old lady arrives to adopt a pet, Rousey tells all the dogs to bark loudly. The old lady gets startled and hits the emergency button on the wall. All the cages open up, and the dogs run away. Meanwhile, Thurman takes Trouble back to Claire and asks for his payment. The greedy siblings refuse to give the payment, so Thurman decides to teach them a memorable lesson. Back in the city, Zoe gives up on the singing auditions and wanders on the streets looking for her beloved dog. She eventually sits down at the dog park and waits for Trouble's new owner to bring him here. Rousey arrives there and tells the whole story to the pet dogs. One of them is very good at smelling and listening and locates Trouble's house in seconds. Rousey takes Trouble's collar to Zoe and points out the direction towards his house. Zoe trusts the dog and gets on her scooter to reach the mansion. Claire and Norbert have invited the lawyer already and start convincing him to hand over all the assets to them. Meanwhile, James meets Zoe at the door, and after hearing her story, James considers her a better owner for Trouble. She goes to the study room and meets Trouble. He had gotten all the luxuries but misses the love Zoe gave him. She tells the lawyer about everything Trouble went through, but Claire and Norbert accuse her of lying. Suddenly Thurman arrives and confirms that Trouble was lost in the city. He brings the squirrels as well, and they threaten to harm the poor dog. Luckily, Rousey reaches in time and saves Trouble. He had forgotten how to love, but Trouble taught him again. The lawyer asks Trouble to make his choice, and he runs into Zoe's arms. Even if they have to live on property, Trouble still chooses Zoe. The lawyer officially declares Trouble as Zoe's pet, and they also get all the assets. The first thing Zoe does with the money is opening a dog park under Sarah's name. She sings a special song for the dogs, but a producer notices her too. He immediately calls his agency and says that he has found their next superstar. Rousey also starts to trust humans again, and gets adopted by James. In the end, Trouble proved that a dog can be man's best friend. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notification so you can watch more videos like this.